What's up YouTube? Capital G here. Got some good old-fashioned Psyframe action for you guys to check out. I keep saying that I'm going to start playing this deck, but honestly it might be a little too tedious even for me. And this is coming from an Altergeist player where you basically are just Sequidiusing and, protocoling your opponent every single turn and, kind of playing similar to Psyframes, basically blocking everything that your opponent wants to do. But Psyframes were pretty much the originator of that type of play style. I mean, there are decks in the past, control decks, that did it, but I don't think that they did it quite like this. So obviously Psyframes, they're getting a Link monster, Psyframe Lamba. Hopefully it's in Savage Strike. I think that would definitely help, bring back the Psyframe players who have dropped the deck ever since Omega went to 1. But there isn't really a substitute for Omega because they don't have quite that good level 8 synchro replacement that can get itself off the field. But the deck is obviously a lot more fun than it was in the past. You can see anytime you're able to drop, I believe that's Alpha, right? Yeah, Alpha is the one you drop on summon. Anytime you're able to drop Alpha turn 1, I think that's pretty good. Now, I don't know if that was trolling or what. He makes ABC Buster Dragon and Borosword Dragon. That's not the trolling part. That's a very good turn 1 from from ABC. But why would he pitch a piece to get rid of the driver? If you're playing against Psyframes, it's gonna get banished during the end phase anyways. So I honestly see no reason to give up anything to banish the card. But whatever. ABC can be a powerful grind deck because it can contact out. He tries to Gamma the ABC Buster Dragon, but he's not having that. He's going to tag out. Now, the thing is, I believe the Gamma actually still hits the field. Yeah, it does. So he is still going to be able to get to a synchro of his choice. If he goes for, oh no, he doesn't actually go for the synchro. He goes for Lamba instead. I was wondering, I was like, if he goes for Omega, he doesn't have a hand, so I'm not really sure if that would be the best play, because if you go for Omega, your opponent does get turn priority to potentially summon or set whatever the heck they drew, and then they could just run over your Omega, and that's a really bad thing when your opponent doesn't have a hand. But he goes for Lamba. And I don't know, man, it's not looking so good. He's going to go for Borolo Dragon, and not one, but double ABC Buster Dragon. This ABC player ain't fucking around, but unfortunately, Psyframe Overload is always that card that it's kind of like one of the ace cards in this deck, man. That trap is so dependable. ABC Buster Dragon is going to hit the circuit, but he is just going to say, nah, dude, I'm going to get another copy of that with the Metaverse. I feel like if you're playing Psyframes without Metaverse, I feel like you're just not playing the deck right, because I don't think that you can afford, especially in today's Yu-Gi-Oh, you can't afford to go multiple turns without that card on field. This was also a mistake. ABC Buster Dragon goes after the Psyframe Overload. I don't know why he doesn't believe that the Overload can just chain and get rid of the Buster Dragon, so I'm not sure what he was doing there. Plus, he hits him with Gamma anyways. Now, at that point, he was going to try to attack the Omega, but again, Overload just basically cleans up everything that you can't deal with. And I don't know, maybe Cosmo would have a really good matchup against Psyframes because Dark Destroyer. Well, no, I guess they could destroy Dark Destroyer with effects, but actually maybe not, because in that case it would float. I'm just thinking about cards, big monsters that like can't be targeted. Double L's, Lunalights would have a good matchup. These decks that rely on targeting, man, Lunalights, people just don't realize Lunalights fucking will clean these decks up. And oh man, sometimes I see Leo Dancer on the other side of the field and I get scared, and that's my favorite monster in the game. Ultimately, his opponent kind of ran out of gas. It's understandable that he did run out of gas. I mean, he summoned a Borosword, a Boroload, and then 2 ABC Buster Dragons in basically the span of 2 turns. If you don't win after dropping all of that on your opponent, you're not going to win the duel, especially against Psyframes, because Omega's never going to run out of steam unless, well, even if you kill it, it just kind of puts itself back in the extra deck. Second duel is against the it's a Dinosaur Thunder Dragon build, and this is always pretty rewarding if you're playing if you're playing Psyframes and you go seconds and you get a good negation on your opponent, because you're basically simplifying the game state, and once you get to Omega Town, you're in really good shape. But you're going to see this is another duel where I keep saying ABC. Psyframes definitely do have some deficiencies in the deck. Sometimes when they have an open field and they don't have beta, the opponent can just attack them with big monsters, and this is really bad here because his opponent got that Denko. Once he got Denko and I noticed that he didn't have beta, I was like, well, you just lost. That's the game, because he has his Overload, which obviously saved him in the last duel, but you can't activate this if the opponent has the Denko, so he is going to go for Alpha. That is going to get hit with the Ghost Bell. Now, keep in mind that these hand traps are not hard once per turns. I have no freaking idea why his opponent activated something. If you're playing against Psyframes and you have an open field and you know that they wanted to use one of their side frames, and let's say you ash it or you ghost spell it, you're generally supposed to do as little as possible because you don't want them triggering those cards. So I think him activating one of the Thunder Dragons was like the dumbest thing ever, because it just gives his opponent the ability to put monsters on the field. And even though it seems somewhat inconsequential because he's able to get over them, the problem is he had to give up his Oviraptor to do it. So now it's like you end up losing damage per se, and this could have been damage that you hit your opponent with. So he could have done 1800 more damage. So that was just, you know, a bit of a misplay. He is going to get card D, get a couple of draws. He still did not get the beta, and it's looking really bad. He does go for battle phase. I think this was also troll. He has the Gemini Amber in his hand. He opts not to summon it, but just says go battle phase, says cap G. What are you talking about, man? I was on algebra 2 when I was in like the 3rd grade. I know how to do math, and yeah, it's a little bit of a math fail. He leaves him at 100 life points. We know what happens when you leave your opponent at 100 life points. He's gonna Foolish Burial Goods for the overload, and then I think that he just activated Called by the Grave for like, I'm not exactly sure, but he is able to I believe, yeah, he finally is able to get the beta. Once he got the beta, he's able to get rid of the Denko, and now he knows that his overload's online, banishes the copy of Ultimate Conductor Tyranno, and now he's basically right back in this duel. And you know, looking at it, the Dino player had so many opportunities. I thought he just made like the one misplay by not summoning Amber, but he kind of made misplays in back-to-back turns, and now he has Lambo online, and he has Psychic Field Zone, and even though he has, you know, he's at a life point deficit, I just don't think you're going to win at that point. He's able to Omega the Brilliant Fusion, which I don't really know if Brilliant Fusion was going to change the duel, but when we see his opponent top deck the Ash Blossom, you know that it's pretty much a wrap at that point. This guy has Gamma, he has Alpha, he has so many ways, Beta, all these cards in his hand. You basically were not going to be able to do anything at this point, especially considering he can summon all of them to the field. Like, that's obviously kind of OP at that point. Anyways, hopefully you guys enjoyed that short duel. If you did, give the video a thumbs up. Do I need to show? Yeah, I guess I'll go ahead and show the deck list. Okay, so this is what the deck looks like on paper, although I did go back and look, and it looks like there were 2 different versions of this deck between the 2 duels. I'm guessing that, you know, he couldn't decide 100% if he wanted to run card D, and I would imagine it's probably Epsilon, because you don't see this card played all that much. Like, I get that it can stop, I mean, I guess like Impermanence, or, I mean, evenly match, mainly just evenly match, right? Like, is Impermanence really even all that good against side frames? I mean, I guess if you go like, you know, Lamba, somebody might Impermanence that, but other than that, the main thing you're on your field is just, you know, side frame Lord Omega. So I don't know, I feel like this card is probably kind of interchangeable, unless you're playing against like Ultrageist, a deck that plays a ton of traps. Maybe then it's kind of useful, but against a lot of decks like Goki and Sky Strikers that don't really like play, or not even Goki, but like the Dark Warrior Rango deck that don't even play you know, spell cards, or excuse me, trap cards, this might not be the best pick. I kind of feel like card D is still pretty good in side frames, although I guess it could be. Yeah, somebody effect failures it, because no, you know what? It looks like it's a cost anyway. So I guess there is no way to definitively keep card D on the field, because you should be able to still activate the tribute effect, unless I'm just mistaken about that. But as long as card D gets off the field, and even if your opponent uses like an Ash Blossom or something like that, then I think you're still pretty much in good shape. But I feel like this card still has some good applications, because even if you draw just into more kind of like, even if you draw into more of your side frames and you don't actually have your side frame circuit on field to actually synchro summon against your opponent, you can use those side frames for like overload. So, you know, it's not like you're just drawing them and they're never going to amount to anything. It's not, you know, always about synchro summoning. You do have the ability to use side frame overload. But yeah, this is, I don't know, maybe now that the deck is like already thrown together, maybe I'll mess around with it a little bit.